So hey nerds, this is Suman and today we're gonna talk about which force is more dominating in subatomic level in the context of atoms, nucleus, electrons, right? So there are basically four fundamental forces if we conclude gravity, right? So there is strong nuclear force, there is weak nuclear force, there is electromagnetism, and there is gravitational force if you consider it is. So basically we are going to talk about the electromagnetism, that is the electric force and the magnetic force. So which force is more dominating in subatomic level? So let us dive into the whiteboard. So now I am starting from the classical idea, that is electron is revolving around the nucleus, and I have made some assumption that is nucleus is not at rest, because if it has to experience some magnetic force due to electron, then the nucleus must be at a constant motion. It would have to be some velocity, right? And another assumption is here that assuming from the perspective of electron. So I am doing whole scenario from the perspective of electron, and if you want to do from the perspective of nucleus, you will end up getting the same result. Okay, right? So now this is a closed circular loop, right? And if you know the magnetic field due to this electron, let us assume that the electron is vibrating. It is vibrating along this axis, and when this is vibrating along this axis, it will experience some magnetic force due to this charged particle, because when a charged particle is moving, then it will produce its own magnetic field, right? And the magnetic field at a distance r, okay, r is given by mu naught I upon 2r. This is the magnetic field produced by the electron at this point, right? At this point. So this is the external magnetic field for the nucleus, right? Because it is its own magnetic field, and if the magnetic field is acting upon the nucleus, it will be the external magnetic field acting upon the nucleus, which is provided by the electron's motion. So if you know the formula for Lorentz force, right, and the magnetic force Fm is equals to QVB sine theta. There has to be some sign of angle theta, but I am assuming that the angle is 90 degree, because magnetic field would be in this direction and velocity is in this direction. So you can write it as QV cross B vector. Now the angle between V and B is 90 degree, because we are assuming that the magnetic field is either inward or outward. That would have to be the 90 degree, right? So you can neglect the sine theta term, and you end up getting Fm is equal to QVB. So here are some terms you have to understand. That is, the Q is this is the magnetic force due to electron, right? This is the magnetic force acting upon the nucleus due to electron's magnetic field. And Q is the net charge. V is the velocity of this particle, or you can simply say the nucleus, and B is the external magnetic field. So now we can rearrange this equation like the net charge is Ze, because the charge on proton is same as the charge on electron, and Z is the number of protons, right? And V we can write as velocity of nucleus, Vn, and B we can write as B external magnetic field. So the nucleus experiences an external magnetic force due to the presence of external magnetic field provided by this electron, right? So you can write Fm is Ze Vn, and the B external is mu naught I upon 2r. Mu naught I upon 2r, right? So you can write Fm is Ze Vn mu naught upon 2r, and if you know the formula that current is rate of flow of charge, and we are assuming there is a constant current in this loop, and we can write it as charge per unit time period, right? So we can write it as charge, and the charge, okay, I would like to tell you that this current is due to this charge particle, not this charge particle, okay? So if you know the magnetic, if you have learned this formula in their higher physics classes, then you have understand that this current is due to this electron, and the charge on electron can be considered as E over T. This is E over T, right? And Fm is equal to ZE square. This E and this E makes it ZE square, and this is Vn mu 0 upon 2 RT. And you can write the time period of revolution is 2 pi over omega, the angular velocity of this charged particle. It could have kind of some angular velocity, right? Because it is in the circular motion. I'm just doing all the assumptions from the classical concept, not the quantum mechanical concept. But I'm assuming that the nucleus is not at rest, because if nucleus would be at rest, then the electric force now, which is going to come out from here, from this equation, would tends to get infinite. So the nucleus is not at rest, right? So you can replace time period as 2 pi over omega, and you will end up getting ZE square, velocity of nucleus, mu 0 is a constant, upon 4 pi r omega, right? And I am adding r here and making it square, because there is some critical reason. And I am adding epsilon naught, permittivity of free space, and I am adding this. I am not adding, but I am just putting it upside and downside, and it will end up getting the 1. So Fm, now you can see here, ZE square by 4 pi epsilon naught r square, right? And Vn mu 0 epsilon 0. So this r omega would be the linear velocity of the particle. So the linear velocity, this omega is the angular velocity of electron, and this r is the radius, or you can simply say the radius vector if you want to know, if you want to make it in a vector form. So this r omega would end up getting V, and we use subscript E, means velocity of electron. Velocity of electron. So Fm is equals to, and this is the Coulombic force between these two charged particles separated by a distance r, right? You can write it as F electrostatic. Fe means F electrostatic force, and this is magnetic force. This is the electrostatic force by electron, and this is the same force. This is not the same force. This is the magnetic force by the charged particle, and this is the same electric force due to this charged particle. So you end up getting Vn Ve mu 0 epsilon 0, right? Let me see here, right? And this mu 0 epsilon 0 is a constant quantity, and you know the formula. If the speed of light can be calculated as 1 over under root of mu 0 epsilon 0, right? So you can write mu 0 epsilon 0 as 1 over c squared. Mu 0 epsilon 0 is 1 over c squared. So the magnetic force would be electrostatic force times velocity of nucleus times velocity of electron divided by speed of light squared. Speed of light squared. So if you had perhaps this knowledge, if you know this from the old physics classes, I guess so. Okay, and I end up getting this result. So what is this equation is telling us? So now I am just solving this portion, and if you don't have to write it, right? I am not teasing anything, because I am just sharing my own ideas on the subatomic level. So you can write Fm is F electrostatics times velocity of nucleus, velocity of electron over speed of light squared. Now I am rearranging this equation in order to get the better result. Right? Fe, we can write, we are just breaking up the Fe term and getting Fmc squared over Vn Ve, and you are looking at this beautiful result. So what this result is telling us that, look, if you have seen velocity of nucleus and velocity of electron is very less as compared to C. If the product is very less compared to C, let's say we are just multiplying this and it is less than C squared, right? Less than C squared. So now you can see here the electrostatic force is more dominating because there is a term of C squared over here, right? This is the C squared term, and this C, as we know, that 3 into 10 raised to the power 8, and if you square it you will end up getting 9 into 10 raised to the power 16. This is the extraordinary term that makes the electrostatic force more dominating in quantum level as compared to the magnetic force. So this is the electrostatic force due to electron, and this is the magnetic force due to electron on nucleus, right? On nucleus. So you can say that the electrostatic force acting upon the nucleus due to this electron is more as compared to the magnetic force acting upon the nucleus due to this electron, right? Because here we have the term C squared, and the product of V and V does not equal to C squared. It will never ever, right? So if you had learned this stuff up till now, we are doing some calculations here, right? We are doing some calculations. So what if the velocity of nucleus is 0? Let us assume the velocity of nucleus tends to 0. If nucleus is at rest, that means the velocity of nucleus is at rest, and something by 0 would end up getting infinite. So we will get electrostatic force is infinite. There would be infinite electrostatic force between two charged particles, and this is not possible, right? And the magnetic force experience would tends to 0, and this is also not the case because the electrostatic force will never be infinite, right? This will never be infinite. The electrostatic force would be infinite if the two charged particles are at the same position, because look here, F is Q1 Q2 over 4 pi epsilon naught R square, and if the radius tends to 0, then you will end up getting electrostatic force is infinite. So what does this mean? If the radius tends to 0, then these two charged particles are lying at the same point, and this is not the true case, right? This is not the true case. So this is the one case that the velocity of nucleus is not 0, that the nucleus is not at rest, because I had already made some assumptions. Nucleus is not at rest because otherwise you will end up getting infinite, and this is not a true case. And what if velocity of electron tends to 0? So same process here. If something by 0 is always infinite, then you will end up getting infinite electrostatic attraction between these two charged particles, and this is again the same, that the electron and nucleus are at the same point, and you will get the magnetic force is 0. Means if the charged particle would be at rest, then it will not produce any magnetic field, and thus it could not it could not affect the nucleus, right? Now let us do some another assumptions, that if Vn Ve equals C squared, what would happen here now. So now we are assuming that the velocity of nucleus and velocity of electron, the product of velocity of nucleus and velocity of electron is equal to c squared. Then you will end up getting F equals Fm. The magnetic force, the electrostatic force, the electrostatic attraction between these two charged particles would be same as the magnetic force produced by this. So all these three cases cannot be possible. This cannot be possible. And you will end up getting with this beautiful result, knowing that the electrostatic force due to electron on this charged particle is greater than that the magnetic force due to this electron in this nucleus, right? And this is not the true case. This cannot be possible. If this is possible, it will violate very most interesting laws of physics. So notes, this is my time, and bye. And if you have anything about this concept, you can comment down below.